All right, thank you for reminding me about that. So, yeah, who is the person that reminded me about this?
It's
I saw
Marianne that
the
spoke up,
picture.
but in the chat group, someone
Huh?
has already
It was
raised.
the mix of my was the first person that
Mesoma wrote
mentioned
it in
it
the
in the
chat
chat.
group,
So
but Marianne spoke up. So,
Okay, okay, both of you, thank you so much.
you're welcome, sir.
so you give them AA.
Yes, I'll make them my PA. Yeah, because they have eyes for details. Yeah, I love people that have got eagle eyes. Okay, we go back from the beginning, but we're going to increase our speed. All right. What is requirement gathering? Requirement gathering, that's what we are here for tonight. So requirement gathering is one of the most crucial activities for a business analyst in any project. It's very, very important for business. It's one of their core role activities. You must know how to gather requirements as a business analyst. You don't have a choice as long as you want to become a business analyst. It involves identifying, documenting, and ensuring that the need and expectation of stakeholders are clearly understood and aligned with the project objectives. Okay, sorry. It involves engaging with the stakeholders to understand their need, defining clear and actionable and measurable requirements, and ensuring that requirements align with business objectives. So these 3 points, you must have it at the back of your mind that this is what you need to do within the requirement gathering activity. And before you start any requirement gathering activity or session, you must ask a question, ask yourself a question. Why you're asking yourself this question is to make sure that you understand even the problem you are solving. What problem are we solving? Some people might be in a project, but they don't even understand. They are just focusing on what they ask them to do. You must understand the problem you are solving, no matter even if you are not the lead, you are part of a group, you must understand the problem you are solving as a group. And you must understand who are your stakeholders, because if you do not understand, you can mistakenly capture requirements from wrong stakeholders. And you must understand the scope. Scope means boundaries. We have what we call in scope and out of scope. Make sure you understand the in scope of the project. Don't go beyond your boundary. Once you step out of the scope, you are looking for trouble. It's just like you decided to cross to Seme without a passport. You are looking for trouble. You are crossing your boundary. So that is it. Ask these questions. Try to understand different types of requirements so that you know the specific requirements you are capturing. We have business requirements. They are high level need of the organization, such as increasing revenue, reducing operational costs. In our own case, we want to increase the lead conversion rate. We want to increase the number of leads we capture and convert them to customers. This will lead to increased revenue. Yes, that is, when we have more lead, we have more customers, we have more sales, and we have more revenue. And then another type of requirement is stakeholder requirements. We must know the stakeholders we are going to capture this requirement from. We call them focus group, different stakeholders who have different departments. Every department serves as a group. We have sales department, we have marketing department, we have customer support, we have IT support, we have finance, we have different departments. If you do not understand the requirements that you need to go gather, you can just easily go gather requirement from the wrong group. Functional requirements, specific behavior or function that the system must exhibit, must perform this function. In our own case, every system or solution we are looking for must have the ability to robustly capture lead, manage lead, create funnels, anything about lead in a scalable manner. We are looking for that. So we need a system because we are going to be integrating our CRM system with different platforms where these potential customers are residing. All these customers, they are residing in Facebook, they are residing in LinkedIn, they are residing in TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp. So we need a CRM system that we can easily integrate with all these systems so that we can create a funnel and be getting all these leads and then be able to convert them. Then we have non-functional requirements. These are unseen behavior. We cannot see, they are just like spirits. You feel spirits. You might not see it, but you know that it's so. The system, there are some qualities like speed, performance, easy to use, usability, and things like that. So we need a CRM system that can scale all this, more especially security. We are working on a payment system. We don't need stories. The system is hacked or the system is this and that. We don't need, so we need a CRM system that can stand this test. Key points in requirement gathering. Before we start requirement gathering, will let us note the key points that will help us gather good requirements. First, we must know how to identify stakeholders, identify all the key players who spoke about that. We cannot overemphasize this. The stakeholders management is very important. Understand the influence of these stakeholders, their need and their expectation. And then once this is done, that is when we'll start conducting interview, conducting workshop, conducting sending questionnaires. We've known. So the first thing, depending on the kind of project, is interview. If you are using an interview, use open-ended question. It's very important to use open-ended question that will help you to gather enough information. Like, tell me the problems or challenges you are having within the sales department. It's open-ended. A person you have now tune the sales rep like a radio or the sales manager like a radio, he'll start singing to you. Yeah, we are suffering in this department, nothing, But if you just use close-ended question, yes or no, you might end up not getting much. It will be easier to analyze, but you might not solve problems. Focus on pain points, desired outcome, just like I said, what are the challenges? This means the pain point. If you are using workshop or focus group, workshop is when you have a large audience to address. Make sure you tailor it to work focus group. If you have, for instance, you have different departments, you need to gather requirements from, break them down into focus group. It's going to be difficult for you if you want to You merge sales department, marketing department, and finance department, and you want to gather requirement from them at the same time because they have different need. You might be having a lot of clash, conflict of interest. So it's better handle them separately. So there should be an interactive session to gather collective feedback from multiple group of stakeholders, like a group, all the people within if you are doing a focus group for sales, so you make sure all the people, all the employees or stakeholders in sales departments, they will be in attendees, like we'll have sales manager, all the sales reps and the rest of them in one group, and it's busy to capture requirements from all of them. Useful for refining and validating requirements. So all the requirements you captured, if you're within the focus group, is easily validated because all the stakeholders are in attendees. So that's our another. If you are capturing it differently, at the end of everything, you still need to go do validation from the higher authority, making sure that it aligns with them. But if you are using a focus group where everybody is an attendee, when they say yes, the yes is yes. This is what we need as a group, and that solves the problem for you. But if you have large amount of people, for instance, you are in a department, you are solving a problem, and the problem you are trying to solve cut across the whole organization, how are you going to do that? How are you going to gather requirements from like 5,000 employees? I've worked in a company where we have up to 4,000 to 5,000 employees. How are you going to capture requirements from all of them? It's going to be difficult. All you need to do is use survey or questionnaire, draft a questionnaire or survey, just like the one I use when I capture requirement from you when we want to form a group. I wanted to form a group and I want to know the group you belong to. I want to know who are interested in being a project manager. I want to know who are interested in being a business analyst. It's going to be difficult for me if I start engaging you people one by one to understand, okay, what is your interest, this and that. It's going to be difficult. So I just use questionnaire and I capture the requirement. Document analysis. At times, you might just need to review documents. Review existing documentation, business plan, process flow, user guide to understand the current process. If you are lucky enough and they already have a process they are working on, they want to improve on the process, they're having challenges within the process, all you need to do is review the existing documentation and ask a bit of question and understand where the gap lies and design a solution to fill in the gap. And then observation, you might find yourself in a situation where you need to observe. If they are working, we already have a CRM system they are working with and they are still complaining, then you can use observation method at this point. Go and observe the way they are working on the current system, and then you will really understand the way they are struggling. If you are using observation, do not spy. If you start monitoring them, observing them without telling them the purpose, that is what we call spy. It's against the law. All you need to do is the people that you need to observe, tell them you want to carry out an observation for the purpose of requirement gathering, how you are going to use the data you are gathering and whatever. And when you guys be in agreement, you watch them do their job, ask questions, and you gather their requirements. This will help you to identify areas of improvement. Then have prototyping, create a mock-up or wireframe to visualize potential solution and validate requirement. Mock-up is just it can become a pilot project where you are using to test the effectiveness of a solution you want to work on. So these are various methods you can use in requirement gathering. So it's up to you. Try to understand the stakeholders you are working with and know the right method to use. These are different methods you can use while gathering your requirement for your projects. And we'll have challenges in requirement gathering, like ambiguous requirements. Vague or incomplete information lead to misinterpretation. Make sure your requirements, you capture requirements with clean, very plain language. So don't use big language, and try to break everything down to layman's understanding, to avoid this kind of vague or incomplete information or ambiguous requirement. Stakeholder conflict, differing expectation or priorities between different stakeholders. Yeah, when you have different stakeholders are having conflict, yes, you need to make sure you capture requirement. That's why it's good to, for instance, you have different units, break them down, so that during the requirement gathering, there wouldn't be that kind of conflict. For instance, if you are within the trying to implement an ERP, most of the ERP serves all the organizations. And in a situation like that, you are gathering requirement from finance department, you're still gathering requirement from sales department and ITSM unit, and you combine all of them in one group, there will be a fight. You need to separate them in different groups so that there will be peace. Every group will be talking with one voice. Because if you are working with sales department, to have what we call head of the unit. So whatever requirement any other person is giving within that unit must concur to what the head of the unit wants. So this will help you to reduce the level of conflict of interest. Then we have scope creep. Scope creep is when you start gathering requirements if you do not understand the scope of your project. You can be the one bringing yourself into this trouble. That's why you need to understand the scope. So scope requirement are expanding beyond the original scope during the project life cycle. So in a situation that they want more, yeah, you cannot say no depending on, but whatever more they are demanding must follow the due process, and there must be adequate budget for any more that is not part of the original agreement or the original requirement. Okay, in a situation like this, we are looking for CRM for lead and contact management, which is within the CRM sales. And all of a sudden, some people are now saying, no, this CRM, we want effective marketing tools. We know we have different modules, sales modules and marketing modules. If they are requesting marketing modules, you can't say just yes. If they need marketing modules, they need to make additional budget for the marketing module, and they need to increase the timeline in order to cover the marketing module. So these are things you need to understand to avoid challenges, kind of challenges. Poor communication, misalignment between what is needed and what is communicated. If there are poor communication. They can easily communicate the wrong requirement to you. So there should be need for effective communication. Communication is not just grammar, speaking. Some people can know how to talk. You speak good English. That is not communication. Is the ability to convey the right information very well in a very good, understandable language. Even if it means using pidgin English to communicate. I work with a lot of Indians. I work with so many of them here in UK, and even those that are currently residing in India. So many of them, they do not know how to speak English very well. Even those who speak English very well, their accents, you struggle to understand what they are saying. But you should not be in a situation like that. They should be able to write down what communication should not just be oral. We have clean written communication. You know, understand the best way to communicate with a stakeholder. That is the point here. You must identify during the stakeholder analysis method of communication, frequency of communication. If you do not have communication plan, if you didn't draft communication plan, certainly you are going to have communication problem, and it's going to lead to poor requirement gathering, because you will get wrong, you will get wrong requirement due to poor communication. Best practice: engage stakeholders early and frequently. Requirement gathering is not a one-off thing. Some people, we've done requirement gathering. You can't finish a requirement gathering. You keep talking to the stakeholders all the time. As the project is progressing, you keep talking to them. During project status updates is still an opportunity to gather more requirements. You need to tell stakeholders what you've done, what you plan to do, to check whether they are in alignment with their expectation, and that is still a requirement gathering in session. So this is communication, frequent communication to get feedback. That is still requirement gathering. Use multiple techniques for comprehensive understanding. So if you are doing a requirement gathering and have different stakeholders, you can use different techniques. In some stakeholders, you can use focus group to gather this from the whole department. You can tailor one-on-one communication to the project sponsor or the project lead, whoever is the client. You tailor one-on-one. Then at times you need to use focus group to capture from the wider. At times you find out that there is need to understand the general view of the whole larger, then you can use survey. So it's left for you to understand the circumstances, the environment you are faced within the project, and tailor it, pick one or choose two. Just like in project management, you can choose two methodologies in order to get the best out of the project. Okay. Validate requirement through feedback and documentation. When you finish requirement gathering, don't just say, yeah, thank God we finished the requirement gathering. No, you need to document it immediately. Once you finish documenting, send it back to the stakeholders for validation. Validation is making sure that, yes, during the requirement gathering, you'll be asking them questions, they'll be talking orally, you finish, and they go. You might, after the documentation, you send it back, they tell you this is not what we wanted. You might, maybe during the requirement gathering, you might have taken a small shot of one bottle of Hero in order to clear your eyes and face the large audience. And you start, right, when they start saying A, start writing B. And when after the documentation, you you capture a lot of wrong requirements. So there is need for validation. You must send it back for them to review and say, yes, this is what we wanted, before you move on to requirement analysis. And prioritize requirements based on value and impact. All the requirements must be prioritized, how important they are. So if you capture 10 requirements, you must find out to scale them or rate them based on their importance, their impact and their urgency, their value to the business. We use what we call Moscow analysis. That is, what is this system going to have? During prioritization, you use Moscow. What is this system going to have? Must have, should not have. Use Moscow analysis. Moscow. Call it Moscow. Moscow. So, use the requirements management tool to track changes. So, all the requirements, you need to document it, and we'll have a lot of, like if you are working with Jira, or we'll have a lot of project management plan. All of them are tools, because all the requirements as you are planning, you still need to capture them. Have product backlog. So these are a lot of techniques and tools through which you can track and manage your requirement very well. We are coming to some of that, like product backlogging and the rest of them. So let's look at detailed steps for requirements gathering using an interview method. So we have looked at various methods, but now we are settling down for interview method. You are meant to interview the project sponsor or the client to understand more. First, define the objective and the scope. That is the purpose. Understand what the interview need to achieve, what we are going to achieve within that interview. Identify the project goals and key questions. Step of doing that is number one, the purpose, and then steps. Clarify the overall project scope and the specific area you want to cover in the interview. Number two, align the interview objective with larger business goals. Example, for software upgrade, you may want to focus on understanding the user pain points with the current system. That is number one of the step-by-step guide. Number one, you have tried to identify the objective. Number two, identify the stakeholders. The purpose, determine who will interview to gather the most relevant requirements. Steps, list all potential stakeholders, users, clients, managers, IT staff. Categorize stakeholders by roles and importance. Primary and secondary stakeholders. When we talk primary, we mean primary are the key, most important, high influential stakeholders. We have other secondary stakeholders as well. Choose individuals with direct knowledge of what will be affected by the project. Example, for a CRM system upgrade, include sales rep. These are because they are the people using the system. They are primary users. The IT team and the marketing department, they are all can work within the CRM system, but know the key people, the key players that are going to be using this system. They might not, some of them might not have power, but whatever you are doing is what is going to affect them. So in as much as we focus on the big men, we should equally have our eyes on the people that, these are the users. Number 3, prepare interview questions. Purpose, develop a structured list of questions to guide the interview. Step, draft both open and closed-ended questions. Ensure questions cover functional need, pain points, and improvement ideas. Focus on clarity. Avoid overly technical or ambiguous or vague statements or terms. Example of questions: what challenges do you face within the current system? This is an open-ended question, and now you've switched on the person's radio, the person starts singing. How do you envision the new system helping you with your daily tasks? Like, you have to focus on the primary person who is doing the work. Are there any specific feature you wish the system could have? These are examples of questions you can bring in. Schedule and plan the interview. Now we've done the background planning, now you need to schedule the interview. Purpose, organize logistics, set expectation for the interview. Steps, set calendar invitation to interviews and with the agenda and objectives. Allocate specific time for the discussion, typically 30 to 60 minutes. Plan the interview format, one-on-one or group interview. Example here, schedule a one-on-one interview with the head of sales to gather insights on CRM usage and challenges. Like I say, you can, the rest of the department, you can use focus group that's larger, and you can use one-on-one for the head of the unit. In this case, we are now combining two approach or two techniques in one requirement gathering. Then once you've done this, you've put a date. Any date you are putting, you must make sure that whoever you are interviewing is comfortable with the date. You must find out their availability. You don't just put interview and say, I'll send an interview. Make sure that they are available to attend. They might be on their annual leave. You are putting interview when they are on their annual leave. They are not going to honor your interview or your invitation. Make sure they are going to be available. So, and if you are using a remote, like what I'm doing now, you are using a remote method like video conferencing, make sure you send the link to them ahead of time. And if you are using an office environment or conference hall, whichever way you want to use it, make sure you book for that conference hall and monitor that is available, because you might, keep monitoring that higher authorities have not taken over. Because you might book a conference hall and the day of the interview, find out that directors are having meeting there. You can't just go there and tell the directors, I've booked here, so you have to look for alternative. So you have to monitor all these logistics. Conduct interview on the day of the interview. Engage stakeholders and gather their input. Steps, start with introduction, explain the purpose and context of the project, ask open-ended questions to engage detailed response, allow interviews to speak freely, listen actively, and avoid interruption. Take notes or record the session with permission. for letter analysis. You see that all the time I want to record a session, I don't just record a session. It's something that it become part of me because that is the best practice. If you're having an interview or workshop or any meeting, before you start recording, tell them the session is now going to be on recording. I always tell people I'm putting this on recording. If you don't want me to put it on recording, you can say, Charles, please, I don't want to be in a recording. And if it's that, I will tell you then you have to leave my class because that is what I do. And if we are not in agreement, so if you are telling them and they say they don't want to be recorded, then in their own case, you might not tell them to leave because they are the directors or they are big boys in the company. All you need to do is say, okay, you start writing as they are talking, you are writing. So that is it. So, but before you start, bam, you put your recording, they must be or no. Use follow-up questions to clarify any vague or incomplete question. When somebody, it doesn't matter the person's status, even if he's the CEO of the company and you do not understand, you say, sorry, I do not understand. Can you rephrase? So, tips. Maintain a neutral tone and avoid leading questions. Ensure a comfortable environment so interviews feel open to sharing. So you try as much as you can to make them very comfortable. If you know how to use icebreaker, use icebreaker. If you don't know how to use icebreaker, don't use it because some people use icebreaker and they will turn to become breaker ice. You start, you want to everybody to start asking somebody because you want to be friendly. Tell you, how about your boyfriend or your relationship, or what if the person just had a toxic, just coming out of a toxic relationship that is the person, reminding the person of that can even change the mood. Some people can be so emotional, so you cannot, because of you can say, after all, me, I don't care for. Mind you that you are different from, so don't know your boundaries in an interview. Know your boundaries. You know, in as much as I joke with you people, I am very conscious of crossing boundaries. You know, go beyond the boundaries. You know, that's it. And then you have done your interview and you didn't cross your boundary, and everybody is happy, and then you go and analyze and summarize the information. And the purpose of analyzing and summarizing the information, organize the insight gathered and translate them into requirements. Steps: review notes or recording, categorize responses by theme, like pinpoint desired features, look for pattern and commonalities across multiple interviews. So you look for those are very common commonalities and merge them together. Identify key requirements. Prioritize critical need versus nice to have. Like I said, use Moscow analysis. So must have, should have, things like that. Translate the responses into clear, actionable requirements. After interviewing, after interviewing the sales staff, you notice that the multiple users requested for faster reporting feature, indicating a key requirement for the system. So something like that, like commonalities, when more people are hitting on one point, it means that that point is very, very important, and you should make it as a valued or must-have requirement. Validating requirements purpose. Ensure the gathered requirements are accurately reflect the stakeholders' need. Step: share a summary of the key requirements with stakeholders. Conduct a follow-up discussion or meeting to clarify any points of ambiguity. Make adjustments based on stakeholders' feedback or new insights. We've said that already. When you finish, we'll share it back for them to, make an input and then adjustments if need be. And then that's when you know that we are tidying your requirements. For instance, present a draft requirement document to the sales manager asking for confirmation or revision. Once that is done, requirement documentation, propose, record and formalize the collected requirement, create requirement document and outline the stakeholders' need, prioritize features and any constraints, include both functionals, what the system should do, and non-functional requirement, performance, security, and usability. Keep language clear, concise, and free of jargon. Example, a requirement might be the system must gather sales performance reports within 2 minutes. In our own case, we are looking for increase the rates of lead conversion. Lead conversion should be when we finish our requirement gathering, when we finish the project, we should be able to increase the number of lead we convert. 9, manage traceability. Ensure requirements remain relevant and aligned throughout the project. Traceability means that you continue to refine this requirement. Like I said, requirement gathering is not a one-off thing. You continue to optimize the requirement, monitor the requirement, groom the requirement, refine the requirement, until the project comes to an end. You must always have an eye on your requirement. This is the main, the heart of the project. So it must be relevant, it must be fresh at all times. Steps of this requirement traceability: use requirement traceability metrics to track each requirement through design, development, and testing. So you must be tracing. If to know there is a change in every requirement, that's what we mean traceability metrics. If there is a change, you record when there is changes, what changes from this to this. Keep communication open with stakeholders in case of evolving need. Like I said, you cannot have it you cannot just say, I've done requirement gathering. So the communication must be fresh at all time. At least you must have a meeting with the stakeholder or whoever at least once every week. Like that is the purpose of project status update. You might trace the requirement for faster reporting to the specific development and testing phases to ensure it meets. So every requirement, it must be always, like I said, must always be fresh, must always make sure that it is what the stakeholders need. If there is any changes, you must always capture changes. It must be recorded, and you must have a document to do that, like requirement traceability. Traceability metrics is a document. Is a method of continuously refining your requirement. You have, if you are working in agile methodology, we use product backlog. In product backlog, we always refining, we always grooming requirements. Then continuous feedback and iteration. Purpose: adapt to new information and evolving. Even after gathering requirements and the stakeholders who want to add more stuff or more requirements is open, just make sure you have provision for them to make additional provision, like budget, increasing the timeline for any additional requirement they are bringing in. the steps: revisit requirement as the project progresses and gather continuous feedback. Adjust or refine the requirement based on stakeholders' feedback or changes in business priority. After developing a prototype, collect feedback from users and revise the requirement to improve the user interface. That kind of example. And in conclusion, conducting requirement interview for requirement gathering is a foundational process in business analysis. It's like you are now laying a serious foundation. By following this structured step, a BA can ensure that the right questions are asked, the correct data collected, and the stakeholders' needs are clearly captured and validated. That is requirements gathering. For this document, this is not just a lesson note, it's a document that will be helping you as a business analyst. Even if you become a senior business analyst, if they are working with Google, Facebook, Microsoft, all these big giants, this method will always be very assistive. Okay, more tips. If you are looking, you don't know where to start, the kind of questions we have questions here that can help you get started. These are general questions. We have what we call how, where, when, who, and what requirement gathering questions for you to structure your questions. If you don't know where to start, you can use this template to get started. When you want to use how requirement gathering question, you can use some of these questions. How will you use the feature? How might we meet the business need? How might we think about the feature a bit differently? How will we know this is complete? This is how. You see how. Then if you want to use where does the process start? Where does the user access the feature? Where will the user be located physically when using the feature? Where will the results be visible? Then you can use when. When will this feature be used? When do you need to know about? When will the feature fail? When will it be ready to start? Then we'll have who. Who will use this feature? Who will deliver the input for the feature? Who will receive the output of the feature? Who will learn about the result of someone using the feature? Who can I ask to learn more about this feature? And we'll have what. What do I know about this feature? What assumption am I making about this feature that needs to be confirmed? What does the feature need to do? What is the end result of this? What are the pieces of this feature? What needs to happen next? What must have happened before? What needs to be tracked? You see, with this, we have a lot of questions already. So if you are cracking your head, all you need to lay your hands on questions like this, you start tweaking it to, these are template questions. You can't just come and start asking me where. It's here to guide you, craft it into your own and make it a good question, and you have where to start. Don't tell me I don't know where to start. Just like Sylvia told us last time, this is difficult. I don't want to hear that. All right, that's it. because of time, we know our time is shortened when we also started afresh for the recording. But I'll give you guys 5 minutes to ask questions. 5 minutes. And once I'll start checking my time, once it's 20 minutes past 8, I'll be off for another class. Joel Ugute.
Good evening, Mr. Charles.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for today's class.
Please go straight to the question. Don't thank me.
You were asking about, you were saying about the BA having regular meetings and communications with stakeholders. So my question is, that's regular meetings we'll be having with stakeholders. Can he do that without the presence of the PM, or the PM will be present for him to have any meeting with the stakeholders?
Will the meeting happen without the PM or who? Can you rephrase your question?
You said the BA will have regular meetings with stakeholders to gather requirements.
Yes.
So during that process of having meetings with the stakeholders to gather requirements, will the PM be present, since it is not the job of the...
Why would you want to go without PM? PM must know whatever is going on in the project. He needs to understand everything. He's in charge of that project. That you're having regular meeting doesn't mean you should. PM is a stakeholder you've forgotten, and he's the leader of that project. So that is you being overzealous, trying to bypass and do things that the PM doesn't know. If you don't do that, don't become overzealous BA.
Thank you, sir.
Jeremiah Ozona.
Hi. Yes. Yeah. So please, you mentioned about Moscow. So I guess
Moscow.
It's an acronym.
Yeah.
Moscow. I guess it's an
You
acronym.
just type it in the system, you will see the full meaning and what it does. It's very popular. It's a very popular technique for requirements prioritization. If you just put it in Google Moscow analysis, you see it. It's a short form of must have, should have, and the rest of them.
Okay. Secondly, you said you mentioned about going back and getting a signed off, more like an email back to a stakeholder to sign off a requirement. So is it because I remember when we were discussing in project management, you talked about version control and baseline. So I don't know if that's the way we should go about this one as well.
No, what I mean is when you finish your stake, you need validation. Validation means that I have a meeting with you and I was talking, you are writing, and after writing, you don't just go and start implementing what you need to bring it back, because you are the one who, just like taking the minutes of the meeting. After the minutes of the meeting, you need to send the minutes of the meeting to all the people who attended the meeting to make sure that what you captured in the meeting is what we agreed on. That is the purpose of taking notes. And like who said the other regular meeting with the stakeholders, you need to have regular meeting with the stakeholders. And yeah, it's important. You start having a problem with the stakeholders when they don't know what is going on in the project. They feel left behind, and there's not. It means the project is no longer transparent. Then you are going to get in trouble with stakeholders.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I just looked at the Moscow now. We also say, can we also have a high, medium, low this in prioritization tools?
Yeah, the purpose of prioritization is that I've already told you that during the requirement gathering, look at where the stakeholders, if more stakeholders are hitting on one point, where I say commonalities, if they are requesting, they want this feature, they want this feature, they want this feature, then that feature should be prioritized. That is, you are during your must-call analysis, such features should be called must-have because more stakeholders need that particular feature or that requirement. You know, that's how you should start ranking them. Like some of the features that the stakeholders do not, yes, it's good to have, but even if we don't have it, we can still do our job. This should be at the bottom. So when you start prioritizing them, the most important, you know where to grade the most important must have. So even if the resources finish, you don't have any resources, the budget or anything, you must have captured the most important items in the project. So that's why.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Jeremiah. And the last but not the least, Nkechi.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I wanted to ask if there is any particular template for this for documentation of the requirement gathering.
We are still doing requirement gathering. Finish requirement gathering first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope with this, you can start your requirement gathering session in your project. And I wish you luck while you do that. And see you tomorrow evening.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night. Good night. Everybody.
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Good night.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
night.
Charles. Good night.
Thanks.